The bedroom spot burglars never looked because, honestly, it just didn't register as a hiding place. Back during the Great Depression, families weren't really thinking in terms of hiding valuables. They were more focused on what you might call survival continuity. If something was taken from them, well, the family might not recover at all. Cash, deeds, ration cards, gold certificates, wedding rings, and tools, these all had to be protected in ways that didn't look intentional, you know? One bedroom location quietly solved that problem, not because it was especially clever, but because it blended so perfectly into daily life that even experienced thieves just plain overlooked it. I'm talking about the underside and interior structure of the bed itself, specifically within the mattress system and its supporting framework. Now, this wasn't about just stuffing money under a mattress in that modern cliché kind of way. Depression-era families, they actually engineered concealment right into the bed as a functional object, not just as a container. See, burglars expected furniture to hold value only where there were drawers, boxes, or compartments. What they didn't expect was any sort of modification within the fabric, ticking, slats, or frame joints, places that looked original, worn, and, well, totally unremarkable. Here's how families altered mattresses without leaving any visible signs. Mattresses back then weren't those sealed foam blocks we know today. They were layered constructions of ticking fabric, horsehair, cotton batting, straw, or even corn husks, making them, uniquely adaptable. Folks learned to open a seam right along an existing stitch line, remove a small section of stuffing near the center, not the edge, and insert a flat bundle of valuables all wrapped up in oilcloth or wax paper. Then they'd re-stitch it using the same thread pattern that was already there. The key was not volume, but placement. The bundle was spread thin and wide, never thick enough to create a lump. When weight was applied, the mattress compressed evenly, leaving no tactile clue. Burglars did lift mattresses, but what they were checking for was loose cash, tins, or boxes slid underneath. They were not trained to detect structural alterations, especially in a mattress that sagged naturally from years of use. A bed that looked worn and uncomfortable was less likely to be disturbed than one that looked new or unusually firm. The wooden bed frame itself was often modified in ways that didn't change its appearance or function. Center support rails and cross slats were ideal. Families would hollow out shallow channels along the underside of a central rail, insert rolled documents or coins wrapped tightly in cloth, and then cap the channel with a thin strip of matching wood glued and nailed using existing nail holes. Once painted or rubbed with soot and oil to match the rest of the frame, the modification vanished into the structure. Burglars focused on headboards and footboards because they were decorative and often hollow. The middle of the bed frame, especially areas hidden by bedding and shadows, received almost no attention. Even if the bed was overturned, the modification blended with wear, knots, and factory imperfections common in mass-produced frames of the time. In homes that used metal or rope-supported springs, another layer of concealment existed. Families placed valuables inside flat cloth packets and tied them directly to the spring lattice or rope grid, positioning them dead center. This mattered. Thieves checked edges because that's where hands naturally go. The center required lifting the entire mattress and probing downward, which cost time and effort. Time was risk. Because the packets were flexible and tied tight, they moved with the springs rather than against them. No rattling, no sagging, no visual clue. Even aggressive searches that involved shaking the bed rarely dislodged them. Depression-era burglars prioritized speed. Kitchens, offices, and dressers offered fast returns. Bedrooms were searched last and shallowly. Drawers were dumped. Closets were rifled. Mattresses were flipped. But deep inspection of a bed's construction was rare. A bed was assumed to be a place of rest, not storage. Families exploited that assumption. More importantly, bedrooms were emotionally normal spaces. A thief expected disorder there. Wrinkled bedding, sagging mattresses, creaking frames all signaled poverty, not concealment. Families understood that the best hiding place was not cleverness, but plausibility. Paper items such as deeds, bonds, and birth records were sealed in waxed cloth and placed inside mattress batting where airflow was limited but body heat kept moisture low. Coins and jewelry were wrapped in oiled fabric and embedded into frame channels where wood buffered temperature swings. Cash was spread across multiple packets rather than stored in one place, reducing loss if discovered. Nothing was placed where sweat, friction, or pests could cause damage. Families tested these placements by sleeping on the bed for weeks before trusting them with irreplaceable items. If discomfort appeared, the placement was adjusted. Comfort was camouflage. Nowadays, mattresses might be a bit less forgiving, but honestly, the principle still holds up. Upholstered bed frames, box springs, and even platform beds, they all have these structural voids that you can, well, modify without anyone noticing. The real takeaway here isn't about hiding your valuables in obvious compartments. It's about weaving that concealment right into the parts you use every day. Those spots that flex, compress, or carry weight, folks just don't think of them as hiding places. For survivalists, this idea means spreading out your must-have items in spots that, stay untouched during stressful situations. You can seal documents flat and work them into the less obvious layers of fabric that make up your gear. Tools or maybe some backup cash, well, those can be tucked away inside furniture parts that look totally fixed and just plain ordinary. The real lesson from the Depression is all about subtlety through everyday use, not just relying on clever gadgets. Families passed this knowledge quietly, Children were taught not to talk about it, not even to relatives. The bed, well, it remained the one piece of furniture that followed a family through moves, foreclosures, and relocations. A dresser could be sold. A table could be traded. But a bed that stayed. This method survived because it required no special skills, no expensive tools, and no visible alteration. It relied on understanding human behavior under pressure, plain and simple. Burglars searched where success had historically paid off. Families hid where no one expected anything of value to exist. This isn't trivia. It's a case study in adaptive security under scarcity. It shows how ordinary people solved high-risk problems using observation rather than technology. The bedroom bed was not a hiding place because it was secret, but because it was boring. That distinction really does matter. For historians, it reveals how domestic spaces were weaponized quietly during economic collapse. For survivalists, it reinforces that the most reliable security measures are those that don't announce themselves as security at all. If you found this breakdown valuable and want more deeply researched, practical history like this, subscribe to Battlefield of Survival. Share this with others who care about real-world lessons hidden in the past. That's how this knowledge stays alive.